guys ready down there? Yeah. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the February 27th, 2017 Fond du Lac Board of Education regular meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Breister.
Here.
Hayes here. Jones.
Here.
Nett.
Here.
Strand.
Here.
Uselman.
Here.
Churchilla.
Here. All 7 members of the board are present. A quorum is then present. And tonight we will have the pledge shortly, led by first grade students from Waters Elementary School. But before that, if we could have a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. And if the students would like to rise and step forward to lead us in the pledge.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, Waters Elementary.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Kathy Daniels. I'm the principal at Waters Elementary. We just love all of our students, and tonight we have Hayden Cardinal, one of our first grade students here. Henry wasn't able to be here tonight because he's sick, so he wasn't here, but Mrs. Parrish is Hayden's teacher, and Mrs. Smith is Hayden's reading recovery teacher. One of the things we absolutely love at Waters School is all students given the opportunity to fall in love with reading. And so tonight, what we're going to show you is all the great things that they do together to help Hayden become the great reader that he is.
All right, Hayden, do you want to go and show them what you used to read? Go on up, let's go up.
This is what he used to read, and we're going to show you the words on the page. He's really a great presenter. We are so proud of him.
Very good, Hayden.
Very nice.
We think he gets it from his grandpa.
Wow. Okay. Very good.
Look at what he can read today. We're very proud of him.
Wow, that is great.
Oh, here he comes. He likes thumbs up, you guys. Just
That was the beginning of the school year.
yeah.
There we go.
All right, look at that.
Only halfway through.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about what happened and help for Rosie before you read the page? Can you tell what happened to Rosie? What happened to Rosie?
She needed to go to the vet to get a shot, but she didn't want to because it would hurt, and she was scared.
All right, so you're going to read a page from there? All right. Sound like a reader, right into the microphone, but read about Bella.
Bella ran to the couch. She crawled under the couch and looked up at Rosie. Come on, you can hide under here, she said. That won't work, said Rosie. Mom will see me.
Awesome, Hayden.
And Mrs. Smith, do you want to talk about reading recovery really quick for everybody?
Yep.
All right. Here, buddy, you can sit down. Thank you.
Well, it's a privilege to serve in the Fond du Lac School District, and especially in the role of reading recovery teacher. Our reading recovery children, we take the children that test at the beginning of the year the lowest 20%. So these children are actually at risk for reading failure. And as you can see that in about 20 weeks, Hayden went from reading just a few words to just a very fluent reader. He is just a little bit under end of year benchmark for this school year. So he's worked hard. His parents and grandparents have read with him every night, and his classroom teacher also supports the things I do in reading recovery. So reading recovery is what we call a safety net for first graders, and it's one of the strongest programs I know to help kids. Myself as an educator, I continue with continuing professional development monthly and work with my colleagues here in Fond du Lac and also in the consortium, which is right out of Oshkosh. So it's a great program, and I'm so thrilled to be here and that your students at this district are able to partake in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
what you
you,
do.
Ms. Smith. That's very impressive results from reading recovery, and I'm hoping we hear more and more of these success stories throughout the coming years too. And way to go, Hayden. Great job. I'll give you the thumbs up from here. So thank you for attending tonight. Appreciate having you all here. This is great to see. Thank you again.
Thank you, Hayden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda will be announcements and communications. We have several tonight. The first of which is a presentation for the Friend of Education Award to the Foster Grandparent Program. And Dr. Sieber, you have some background on this.
I do. So, Bridget, if you would like to come up, we would love to have you come forward. Board members, this is Bridget Bester. Bridget from AdvoCap and the Foster Grandparent Program. And the Friend of Education Award is an annual award through which the Fond du Lac Education Association and the administration work together with coming up with suggestions. The Foster Grandparent Program, for those of you that don't know, has been in existence in the Fond du Lac community since 1998, statewide since 1965. And just to give you a scope of the amount of time and the amount of volunteers, this year in all of our elementary schools, we have foster grandparents. We have 32 foster grandparents in the buildings that put in an average of 700 hours plus per week, supporting students and supporting teachers and helping the district, which we could not do by ourselves. So with that being said, I'd like to invite, Mr. Morgan is here, Mrs. Charland is here, and please come forward. They were instrumental in helping us recognize the Foster Grandparent Program, particularly Mrs. Charland. And Kathy, would you like to just say a few words about the Foster Grandparent Program and your experiences?
Well, in the elementary school, any kind of help you can get is just crucial. And the grandparents that come into our schools play many different roles. Some of them will sit and read one-on-one with a child. Some of the grandparent helpers will work on maybe a couple kids working on their math facts. And what's the most important is the love and attention that they get from a special grandparent. There's so many kids that come to school who don't have a strong family, extended family in their area. And we all know as parents how overwhelmed we can get. And so when you can have that kind of little grandma face or grandpa coming to you and just snuggling with you or putting our arm around you and letting them tell you stories. And that's probably one of the biggest things, having someone to tell a story to. What a difference that can make. And we have had grandparents at Roseno for as long as I've been there and at Lakeshore before that. And we just can't thank you enough. I know what a huge job it is to organize that and to match adults up with classrooms, but it is a privilege for us to work with all of you so much. And there's such wonderful people that come into our schools. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you, and thank you on behalf of AdvoCap and the Fond du Lac School District and all of our amazing volunteers. We have some here that will come up and take pictures with us. Thank you for appreciating our efforts in
More
this.
than you can imagine.
We are grateful to work with the school district and the wonderful teachers to partner to bring more of those connections with those children. So we really appreciate being able to work together with all of you to do this. More specialized, more, you know, for the children, just that one-on-one work, it really works out. And we do have to say that we are recruiting more volunteers over the summer. So if anybody knows of anyone who would like to volunteer, 55 and over, just have them give me a call, and then we, you know, screen and that sort of thing. But it's such a great program, and our foster grandparents say they get more out of it than the kids do, but we know it's about the same. So thank you very much.
Right, and Ms. Bester, Dr. Siebert and I have a proclamation framed and ready to present to you.
Yes.
And also, looks like you're being recognized at one of our plaques here in
Yes.
district.
Yes, so this plaque, as Mr. Drugella said, hangs right outside the boardroom. So you'll be recognized for eternity in that plaque, which is exciting.
Oh, absolutely.
I would have a picture of all the.
Picture, and then we'll bring.
Yes.
Unofficial.
The Director of Volunteer Services for AdvoCap here. We have Marianne Salter, who is on our AdvoCap Grandparent Board, and she is a retired educator from the district. And we also have Diane Trent, who is a volunteer at Fire Elementary. As you can see, her love for the Fire Panthers.
Take the picture.
Okay, great. 1, 2, 3. Great. You all look wonderful.
And it looks like the foster grandparents did win that award some 17 years ago, so they've been
Yes.
overdue.
Yes,
Nice.
in the second year of existence, and certainly time to recognize them again for incredible service.
Now, speaking of recognition, we also now are going to recognize Julie Rayfelt on being the named 2017 Wisconsin At-Risk Student Advocate of the Year by the National At-Risk Education Network Wisconsin chapter. And Dr. Siebert, what can you add for that?
Yes, well, Mrs. Rayfelt is here. Here she is. Congratulations, Julie. Julie, so everyone knows, is a social worker, school social worker at Fond du Lac High School. She is a tremendous advocate, not only for at-risk students, but for all students, and believes very deeply in supporting them and supporting teachers so that kids can have the best possible experience. And to be recognized, as Mr. Drugella said, as the At-Risk Student Advocate of the Year is just so well deserved by you and so very inspiring, and we're so grateful that you're part of the Fond du Lac School District. So really, congratulations to you. It's very exciting. Feel free to tell us a little about it if you'd like. And you can use the other one if you like too, whatever's easier.
Well, I was just, I have to share, so that week my kids had been sick a couple days, and then Principal Hagan said, I really need you to go to this conference for me in the Dells. So it was gonna take an entire day, and I said, well, how long is the session? It was an hour-long session. And I'm like, Mrs. Hagan, is this a good use of my time? I've been out of the office 2 days this week already. And she's like, well, I just really think this is important. So as the week went on, I realized that other people from the district were going to this conference. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm driving to the Dells for an hour-long session. Someone else could just attend. Well, then I got there, and I found out that I had been nominated and won the award. So it was just a complete surprise, and it was really a fun surprise, too. So. And I just want to say thank you to the board and the school district for all the great opportunities that you give to our students. When I go to conferences around the state, I'm always just kind of blown away and proud of how much our district is doing to reach kids at all levels, you know, from all the different things like the Y-Screen program to sending teams to Beyond Diversity, you know, the mental health grants that we're reaching out for our writing. So I just want to say thank you for supporting those things because it's really helping those kids, especially at the high school. I see it every day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
You're
thank
so
you.
welcome.
And Julie?
Congratulations.
In light of your wonderful recognition, we have a Fondy Pride Award that Dr. Siebert and I would like to hand out to you.
over Facebook. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations, Julie. Thank you.
Very good, Julie.
Very good.
And third on our announcements and communications is a proclamation from State Superintendent Tony Evers recognizing National School Breakfast Week, which is March 6th through the 10th of 2017. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas for more than 30 years, the school breakfast program has contributed to the health and educational development of our state's children by making nutritious breakfasts available in Wisconsin schools. And whereas the school breakfast program plays an important role in promoting healthy eating habits of children and combating childhood hunger. And whereas recent studies indicate that students who eat breakfast have improved mathematics grades and reading scores, enhanced classroom attentiveness, reduced absenteeism and tardy rates, fewer nurses' visits, and improved psychosocial behaviors. And whereas school breakfast programs can significantly enhance the students' learning environment, allowing children to concentrate on graduating with the skills and knowledge they need to be successful in the workplace or with further studies, a primary goal of every child a graduate. And whereas an increasing number of schools are offering the school breakfast program as a means of better meeting community needs, and whereas during school breakfast week, we pay tribute to the many concerned individuals involved in this program, including state officials, school food and nutrition service professionals, school administrators, teachers, parents, local civic leaders, and many volunteers. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Tony Evers, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, do hereby proclaim March 6th through the 10th, 2017 as School Breakfast Week in the state of Wisconsin. And we are certainly fortunate. We have school breakfast here in many of our venues, and I think it is a positive effect, as many of our school principals and teachers, I think, can attest to.
Exactly.
So good to recognize this, and thank you everyone who's involved with that program here in the district. Anything else you care to add before we move forward on that?
No, thank you.
All right. Now is an announcement that following adjournment of the regular meeting, the board will convene in a workshop for the secondary principal data updates and also to discuss the Fond du Lac High School Fieldhouse gym floor. The board will recess the workshop to travel to the Fond du Lac School for a tour and review of the gym floor and would reconvene there. Next on our agenda is audience to visitors and delegation. This is our first opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board on a school district related matter to please step forward and do so. Seeing none, we'll then close that and proceed to the approval of the consent resolution agenda. Board members have been provided background material and information on each item or have discussed it at a previous meeting. These items will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. Any board member may remove an item from the agenda, and this item will then be discussed and voted on separately. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
Go ahead, sorry.
I move to approve the consent agenda as follows. A, Human Resources resignation, Celeste Williams, mathematics teacher at Fond du Lac High School, effective February 24th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Jones and a second by Net. And Ms. Simon, this is someone who got away, huh? Apparently got a better offer and
She was on LTSE because of a teacher out at the high school for the year. And so she actually found permanent employment in the prison system. So she took the opportunity to have full-time employment.
Yeah.
As opposed to being done at the end of the school year.
And they generally don't wait around for the end of school years to start employees, right?
So we're without it, we have an opening?
No, actually, we got lucky and we found someone right away.
Oh.
Yeah, somebody knew somebody, and yeah, someone was there last week Friday, or they did an overlap day last week, and she started this morning. so.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the vote?
Brewster,
Yes.
Hayes, yes. Jones,
Yes.
Net,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Uselman,
Yes.
Georgella.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Now on to the individually considered resolutions. First, from Business Services, to consider approval of four-year-old learning program provider and agreements. If we could have a motion as indicated for this.
I move the Board of Education approve the 2017-18 four-year-old early learning program provider agreements with the following providers. Model 2 sites, Camelot Children's Center, Christian Parents for Kids, Mary Linsmeyer School, YMCA. Model 3 sites, Advocate Head Start, Bright Beginnings Academy, Hope Lutheran Preschool, Kids Choice Learning Center, Shining Stars Learning Center, and Treffert Academy.
Second.
A motion by Brewster, seconded by Hayes. Any discussion on this? Anything you'd like to make us aware of? There were some slight changes in this, is that correct, from previous?
Yes, we're happy to announce we're adding 2 schools to our program, but unfortunately we lost 1 school. We lost Marian University, but we're adding Treffert Academy and Bright Beginnings Academy for this coming year.
And some of these have been here for some length of time too, right? Have
Yeah,
been-
yeah, since, I think most of them have been here since the beginning.
Yeah. And some very good institutions listed in here, so I think everyone will be served quite well. Any other questions or discussion from the board on this motion?
No, I'd just like to say that I think this is a really good program that we're providing for these youngsters, and I'm glad you added those 2 places, because I think that even improves it better.
Nancy Hackbarth works very hard to make contacts with the preschools.
And you wrote that 60% of the children in 4K are at these sites, so.
Model 2 or Model 3, yeah, and the
Right.
rest are at our schools. We have several elementary schools that have 4K.
Any further? Okay, seeing none, would the clerk please call the vote?
Hayes, yes. Jones,
Yes.
Net,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Uselman,
Yes.
Brewster,
Yes.
Georgella.
Yes, and that motion carries 7-0. Next, under individually considered, is a Human Resources to consider the resignation of the STEM principal and district coordinator of assessment. Don Smith has been with the district for 7 years and has been an integral part of our administrative team. And sad to see him leave, but he's excited about a career advancement opportunity. So could I have a motion for this, please?
I move to accept the resignation of Donald Smith, STEM Academy and Institute Principal and District Coordinator of Assessment, effective at the end of the day, June 30th, 2017, and that the board express its appreciation for his contributions and service to the district these past 7 years.
And I'll second that. And Mr. Smith, been with STEM since STEM started, correct?
He has, yes. He's in the audience tonight, right back there. Joined us as an assistant principal at Woodworth Middle School. Came from the Freedom High School, where he was a science teacher. Had the background that was perfect for the STEM school and has helped the STEM school get off to incredible starts, including the transition into the high school experience. So his role as district assessment coordinator has also been exceptionally valuable to the Fond du Lac School District. And as you said, and as we wrote, we will definitely miss him, but we also recognize that this is a career advancement opportunity for him, and we wish him all the best, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Smith, for everything you've done to get this STEM going and keep it successful and thriving. You're going to be missed. Sorry to see this happen. Any other discussion, comments from the board?
Don, if you decide between the end of the year to change your mind, that's okay too.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Well, thank you. Would the clerk please call the vote?
Jones,
Yes.
Net,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Uselman,
Yes.
Brewster,
Yes.
Hayes, yes. Georgella.
Yes. That motion passes 7-0. Next is to consider approval of amended 2016-17 instructional assistant salary schedule. to include translators and interpreters.
I move to approve the amended 2016-17 instructional assistant salary schedule to include translators and interpreters.
Second.
Motion by Hayes, second by Uselman. And could you lead us in where we're at here? This is a good thing. I think we're all glad to see this happening.
Yes, no, and we thank the board for your support. Ms. Simon, maybe you'd like to, you and Mrs. Brockert are the designers of this model, and just kind of walk the board through it.
Well, what you have in front of you, when we hire instructional assistants, they're either a classification 1 or a classification 2. Classification 1 generally holds a high school diploma. In order to be a classification 2, you had to have a 4-year degree or some experience working with children beyond, experience working with children. We believe that the interpreters bring a skill set. They have to be able to speak, read, and write in English, and the group of children that they'll be working with. And so we wanted to add that category to this because we see that as a special skill set, and it should be given that higher rate of pay. So.
Any other comments from the board? I think this is a great move that the district is taking here to go away from the contracted employees, so to speak, to make them our employees and make them feel part of this district,
Right.
more so than they have been. Anyone else?
Well, I really appreciate the work that the two of you did to pull this together, because I think it was really needed, and I'm glad we could move. I think the whole board is really appreciative to move forward on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
If there's no further discussion, would the clerk please call the vote?
Net,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Uselman,
Yes.
Brewster,
Yes.
Hayes, yes, Jones.
Yes.
Churchella.
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. And we are now down to board and administrator reports. Mr. Superintendent.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Georgella. So this evening, the superintendent's report is going to consist of highlights from last year's Acuity Grant Awards. And we are excited to have 3 of those individuals here tonight, or groups of individuals. And the deadline is March 1st, so coming up this Wednesday for this year's round of Acuity Grants. Great opportunity, roughly $25,000 again, that the board will be able to distribute for new and engaging and innovative programs from a technology and non-technology background. And so today we have 3 examples of award winners from last year, which will be great to learn about the impact that those dollars and that the board's donations in terms of Mrs. Uselman as well have helped these individuals and their students take part in. So with that said, Mr. Barnes, you're actually listed here first. So we are privileged to have Chris Barnes from Fond du Lac High School, and he received an Acuity grant for iBand. He'll also be using an iPad with a dongle adapter, that I learned what that is, to do this presentation electronically for you. So welcome, Mr. Barnes.
All right, well, thank you again for having us here tonight for all of the people that received these grants. They have helped immensely, I'm sure. I know ours has. For those that don't know, iBand was something that Matt McVeigh, who is my coworker at the high school and the band department, we put together is a app or a iPad-based system of like all these great things that we can do within our band program, from our extracurricular marching bands all the way to our jazz bands, to concert bands, and all that stuff. I'm just going to go through a couple quick highlights here, and I thought what better way to present about iPads than do it from an iPad. So this is from one of the iPads that we received from the district. Well, first of all, Matt and I, in our band program alone, we have about 230 students. And trying to do assessments of those 230 students in about a week. Last year we had a lot of paperwork that Matt and I kind of decided we didn't really need. So we found this online resource called For All Rubrics. You enter your own rubrics, you enter your kids' names, and then you just go in, and as you are listening to them play, so these are playing assessments, you can go through and you can just click, and I mean it starts highlighting scores for them. So then when we are all done, then we can go back in the in the app or online here, and all of the scores are just laid out really neatly, so it's a lot easier for us to enter. So this saves both Matt and I a lot of time, and saves a lot of copies. It saves, well, 230 every time we assess. So that adds up very quickly. That is kind of the basis. One of the main reasons why we were looking for an app like this or a program like this was because of how it can help kind of streamline a lot of processes, especially with marching band. The school I just came from recently, University of Nebraska, all 300 members of their marching band have their own iPad minis. And they noticed an increase in proficiency as far as proficiency and moving along through stuff faster, like almost twice as fast. And we saw that this year through a couple things, and a couple parents on the board here got to see that as well. I mean, this was the first year after band camp that we were able to put the entire show on the field, which is something that's never been done. And now we can't completely put that on the iPads and the use from the iPads, but they definitely helped. So this is one of the apps. It's a music app, so you upload music to it, and then you can zoom in. This is the score from one of our marching band shows. You click through, so all of our drum majors had this, so while they were on the field, they didn't have to carry their binder or have their paper fly around on them. They had an iPad that had everything they needed. Papers on here, you can edit on here. So I mean, you can write stuff that you'll remember, or things that you don't need, like that squiggle. And then that's there. So then that's saved there. So when you come back to that page, it's like, oh, there's that squiggle there. So now I remember I needed that. And in addition to this app, not only for marching band, but we also started recently with solo ensemble coming up. We have a lot of music that we have to go through and a lot of kids that we have to get music for. So in this app, like for tuba, we copied as many songs as we had, and a tuba player can come in and go, hey, I'm looking at doing solo ensemble. We can go, all right, here's an iPad that you can take for the weekend and look at all the songs you can choose from. And then they can go through and say, all right, I want to look at this one. Oh, that one looks terrible. I'm going to look at this one. So, I mean, they can go through, and this, once again, streamlined our process and gave the kids a lot easier. Instead of taking a stack of paper home, they could just take an iPad home or use it in a practice room as they're looking for music. Now, obviously, iTunes comes on here, too. This one we did not get fitted for our jazz library. We tried to set separate iPads for separate things, so if a kid comes in and goes, I want some jazz recordings, then we give them that iPad instead of saying they're all on all of them, because obviously there's only limited space. But then the really cool thing with marching band, there's this program which is the drill writing program that I use to do the drill. It's called Piware. There's this app that goes along with it. So this is actually one of our sets from our show. Some of you might recognize it. Just kidding. You probably don't. But really cool thing with this, so this is, everyone in our band has their own individual spot, and trying to teach that to each individual person is quite a pain. Now this, we switched, once again, switched something this year to save on paper and save on copies. Instead of giving every kid a picture of their spot, we just give them a coordinate. So it says, on the field, you stand exactly here. So then our drum majors and our staff have these iPads, and we can walk around and go, ooh, you're not in the right spot. And then they go, well, where am I supposed to be? So you can actually click on a person, and this tells me that is Will Zramba's spot. So Will Zambra is right there, and he's standing right next to Izzy Jan. So you can go through, and without even knowing where someone's supposed to stand, you can just go through really quick, click on people, you can highlight a specific person. And one thing that we found that this was very, very useful for was when a student missed a day of camp, whether they're sick or at another camp. We can highlight just their person, get rid of everyone else in the field, and they can go count by count where they move. So instead of, okay, I stand here and then I stand there, they can just follow this, and it says exactly where they're supposed to be on every single step. So, yeah, possibly a little too much micromanaging possible here, but it gives students just another perspective of what they can do. And I mean, you can change how you see it. You can change so you can see where lines are. And like I said, the number up top, the number you see on the top is actually their coordinate. So each kid is given that precise coordinate, and they have to go find it on the field. And then, yeah, imagine 130 of those kids. So this really streamlines the process for marching band. As far as what we've done with it for jazz, there's a book called the Real Book, which is a book that has hundreds of jazz charts in it, and any jazz person that can read that language just needs the Real Book, and they can play over 100 different songs. Now we have a group of probably 10 or 15 students that almost weekly go play at a coffee shop, and they just play jazz songs. And they bring these real books. They have their own real books. They're kind of attached to the ones that they bought. But we have them uploaded here, so you can go in different styles. You can do any different key, and it's just great practice for our jazz students as well. And then one last thing, and this is because we have our trip to Boston coming up. We have this app called Guidebook. The choir actually used it last year, and they kind of taught us all the kinks and things that that we can work around. But this is something that we will give a couple of our chaperones on the trip. Now we're bringing 115 kids to Boston on a bus, so it will be hectic on the directors enough. But this is something that makes our life a little easier. Now the kids will have the opportunity to get this app on their phone, but for chaperones, this will be right on their iPad. It's got a schedule of all of our events day by day, blocked in. You can post stuff to Twitter from the app, attractions, restaurants, maps, so you never get lost, and most importantly is contact info. Matt and my contact info will be right on that app, so if a chaperone ever needs us, they can just go right there, find our contact info, and get a hold of us. So this is just a couple things that we've been able to do thanks to this great opportunity to get these iPads. And we got 5 last year, which worked out really well for us because we have 2 directors and 3 drum majors. So for marching band, that worked out really well. As far as distributing to students when they need it, we generally have enough. But yeah, it's just been great, and it's really revolutionized how we teach, especially marching band. But jazz has helped with individual instruction, assessing. All of that great stuff.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
So has the iBand has met your expectations, or what you were anticipating?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the nice things is because I did come from Nebraska where they had the iPads, I knew how to use them right away, so it wasn't me.
Right.
It wasn't both
Not
Matt
a
and I
learning
relearning
curve.
everything from figuring out what we can do. Now there's obviously a lot more stuff we can do with these, and we're just kind of starting to tap into that this year.
Great.
But yeah, definitely met expectations, definitely helped. The drum majors loved it. I actually had them pose for really corny pictures that I will spare you. But yeah, no, it's been fantastic for us.
Good to hear. I mean, money well spent on our part, I think, and I'm glad it's working out as you anticipated.
Yeah.
Keep it up, and are we going to be hearing from you again for the next round of grant
I hope so.
proposals?
Why don't
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thanks
All
for
right.
sharing
Thank you.
that with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for all you do, Chris.
All right, next we have Gina Marchionda Schneider and Lori Sass, who are here to talk about Cycle to Calmness, which was their grant that they received at Lakeshore, and they brought one of their cycles with them.
We did. We're
Yes.
hands-on people.
That's great, Lori.
In the elementary schools. There you go. Any one of you would like to come up and try this?
No, for- I don't have that.
I think Linda, you should probably do that.
You think I need to do this?
This is useful, then we'll come try it.
You look good.
You know, she's gonna want one underneath her desk.
Yeah.
Can we get those? I'd kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Come to Lakeshore at any time during the day and use one of them.
You gotta take a picture of this.
There you go. Do
Are you
feel
calm?
calmer?
You-
That's a great picture.
Well, it takes a while to calm yourself.
Does it have a resistance adjustment on it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And it's reset. You can reset it also. Down at the bottom of the base, you can.
Oh, there's resistance. Yeah. Cool.
Now imagine a book, an IE time, and you're reading and just relaxing and going to that next level, but retaining everything that you're reading.
Yes.
And if you notice, can you hear it? Yeah. As you cycle? But it's very low.
It's quiet, yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. You got it? Okay, great. There we go. There we go. Our grant was called Cycle to Calmness. We did bring a desk cycle. We were able to get 20 units for Lakeshore Elementary School, which each elementary teacher had, and then the special ed teacher also had one in there. The first part of this, we were just doing it with kids that had trouble fidgeting. But we have found, since recess has been inside, or just the time of day not being able to move around, that everyone uses this apparatus. Most of the time, when you see a child that begins to get fidgety, they just go over to the from the classroom, get up and go over and use it. We decided to do this because a lot of students spend 5 to 6 hours a day sitting at their desk. And you can tell that after 2 to 3 minutes, some of them need the extra with it. Studies show that students need the physical activity, and this is what we give them to get the physical part. But this is kind of a win-win situation here. Besides having the ones that fidget use this, it's also Dr. Dangle, who is from the University of Minnesota, realized that a student can burn 114 more kilocalories per day using this for just 20 minutes, which is equivalent to a half a candy bar. Now in the elementary schools, a half a candy bar may not seem like a lot, but it adds up to 2.5 a week, and over a school year, it could be 6 pounds. So it's a win-win situation for us. It's the actual exercise along with being able to have the child relax. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll show we have a little video. There they are. So you can kind of see what it looks like at
New at 5, a new way for students to get their exercise. They are actually working out on bikes while they're in class. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Freeze visited the school in Paramus to check it out.
Sit still and stay calm. That never really works for a 7-year-old, but read at your desk and pedal looks promising.
It gets me relaxed. Exercising is good for your body.
These first graders described it as soothing.
I'm riding while I'm riding my bike. When I'm with the bike, it feels more relaxed, and when I'm not with the bike, I feel a little crazy.
Pedaling desk cycles in school is called kinesthetic learning. Studies show it enhances the ability to solve problems with physical solutions.
People fighting over the desk cycles because they liked going on it.
That conflict was solved by the kids making a list for taking turns. Only 10 desk cycles in this classroom since the start of the year, but already results. Excuses to be out of chairs and distractions caused by wiggling are down.
We want to build readers and great thinkers, but you know, their little bodies are telling us that they need to be moving.
Valley Hospital's Community Health Initiative donated the Under the Desk pedals, which measure speed, distance, and calories burned.
I read quite a few articles saying that students that are having a hard time focusing, if they're moving more, that it makes it easier for them to focus.
So the kids would use it every day, all day, if we had enough for every child.
This is an elementary school, but certainly I could see it throughout, you know, through middle school and high school as well, because, you know, we need to do a lot more with kids, but we also recognize that they need the activities.
Even adult learners find them effective. Each cycle costs about $150. They're even sold on Amazon. Amy Freeze, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Well, great. And
Thank you very much.
so what's the feedback been from your students so far around the school?
We have arguments in our classroom regarding who gets to use it, but they pass it around. They love it.
How many do you have?
Well, there's just one right now per classroom.
Okay.
And have you noticed children being less fidgety or more attentive? Or
Yes.
Our PBIS data is showing improvements. I mean, there are a lot of different things that we've tried at Lakeshore this year, like we just have headphones out. Basically, we just have tools out for kids. So if they want headphones, stability balls, the bike, if they want to go sit in a different area, they can. So it's hard to say that it's just the bikes that have made our data better, but our data is much better than last year.
That's great. And you use it for overweight students? I mean,
Right now,
Go ahead.
my classroom, we Zoom on the ones that are still having trouble sitting still.
But, I mean, that could be a possibility.
Yes, it could be.
Well, one thing that the company suggested, if you have some, like I have some kids that are very athletic and are on athletic teams, that they could use the stability ball with it. So they kind of show you how to use the device, the apparatus, as a challenge. And so I do have a couple kids that can sit on a stability ball at their desk and pedal. But then that creates a problem because somebody has two of the special things instead of one.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Well, this was one of the more unique grant applications, I think, that we saw last year, and it's interesting to see the results you're getting and how well it's being received and working for you. So I hope that continues.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for being that creative.
Yes,
in this.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, right?
Thank you, ladies. And we're also fortunate to have Heather Branson from Woodworth representing the Language Arts Department at Woodworth, where they all received document cameras.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Heather Branson. And I'm Jenna Marco, and we're here on behalf of Woodworth Language Arts Department. We just wanted to come tonight to say thank you so much for the Acuity Grant. We were able to purchase document cameras for our classrooms, and we're using our document cameras daily to enrich our teaching. We implemented the use of the cameras in our writing units to analyze mentor text, create shared writing as a class, and examine and celebrate the writing of students in our classes. We just finished our writing, our unit on literary essays, and we were able to interact with example essays as a class to see what we could apply to our own writing, which helped tremendously when it came to students when they went to write their own essays. We're also able to use the cameras for shared writing activities as we model new writing strategies, since students are able to watch us use the strategies in real time and can see the writing process in action. The Lucy Calkins curriculum encourages teachers to keep their own writer's notebook, and the document cameras provided a helpful way to show my work and my notebook, especially in our narrative unit. The document cameras have also provided a way for students to display their hard work by showing the entire class a finished piece so we can celebrate their accomplishments and learn from each other.
When we're teaching reading, we are annotating text as a class and examining shared text to evaluate the author's craft. Having document cameras greatly improves our ability to share our thinking about reading using the RAD, the Reading Apprenticeship Across Discipline strategies that we've been implementing at Woodworth this year. Recently, I was able to show my students how I take notes about what I'm learning while reading an informational article. The students were able to follow along as I read and thought aloud about the important information. The students could all see what I chose to highlight and the notes that I wrote to myself in the margins as we were reading. Then they were able to all see me thinking as a reader, and they were able to transfer that modeling to their own reading. Without a document camera, they wouldn't have been able to follow along to see how I think and annotate text while reading. We are extremely grateful for this gift of technology to assist in our instruction. The students are able to see the reading and writing process so much more clearly because of the document cameras. We cannot imagine not having them to aid in our instruction because they are invaluable. We appreciate your support in our endeavor to make each of our students a lifelong reader and writer.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support in providing the document cameras. We really appreciate the grant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Very much.
I know my daughter attends Woodworth, and she said these are used every day, and they are valuable too, as from the student perspective. So I'm glad they're getting the use that they were intended for, and it sounds like they're quite successful there. And I know, Ms. Branson, I will never forget when we came in last spring and announced to you that you were receiving these, and your reaction was priceless. So
We really do appreciate them, so thank you so much.
Yes. Any other comments from the board? These
I just want to say, I love these grants because the teachers are telling us what you want and need for instruction, and it's great to be able to give you exactly what you're looking for. So I'm glad you're able to make use of all of
Right.
that, so.
And thank you for coming to the meeting tonight.
Yes,
I
thank you
appreciate
very
you
much.
commenting on where these are at for you these days. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you again. What else do you have?
That's it.
You're out of things. Okay. Board members, any board activities that you'd like to report on? I'll start down this end.
Nothing specific, it just seems like we're really busy right now.
Okay.
Every weekend, every night, I don't know, something going on.
Sure. Mr. Strand?
Nothing, no.
Well, just the math at Rosano, and then I was at the concession stand again. So you hear a lot of things at the concession stand. I heard a wrestling report. Mrs. Mikulkevich was back from there, and they did okay. They didn't get what they wanted exactly, but they did pretty well up at state wrestling. And yeah, so nice to just see new faces. This was Fondy FCCLA manning the booth this time, where it was Key Club last time, so I got to meet some different kids.
Right.
The one gentleman got 3rd place in state, right?
Correct.
Dante
Dante
Johnson.
Dante got
Johnson,
hurt, yeah.
Yes, did great.
Congratulations.
Nat?
Nothing that I've been involved with other than, I'm not sure if it's Mr. Morgan's class, your civics class,
yeah.
or that sent the emails. I really, I enjoy that every single year, hearing from the students. And there's also been a few teachers at the high school and elementary school, Gina Marcianda in particular, that have been inviting board members to different events. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to get to those, but I really, really appreciate that, and that you have your kids, your students, contact us. It means a lot, so thank you.
Agree. Dr. Jones?
First of all, I want to announce to the public that Tyson is having its play this weekend, Once Upon a Crime. And it's going to be Thursday, March 2nd at 7, Friday, March 3rd at 7, and there's going to be a dinner from 5 to 7, and then Saturday at 1 p.m. and at 7 p.m. And also, we finished our PJs and bottoms and shorts, and everybody,
The sewing class.
everybody had all fingers and tag afterwards, so that was cute, with Mrs. Pitson.
Do you have a price for tickets?
Yes, it's $6 for adults, $2 for students, and children under 5 are free.
Very good.
And they're available right at the school office or at the auditorium?
At the office, right? It was supposed to be here. Yeah. I think
Yep,
it's
thank you.
Okay. And Mrs. Hayes, anything
No,
on your plate?
I just attended the Board of Control meeting in Oshkosh.
Okay.
CSIS things.
Okay. Well, there'll be plenty of activities coming up as a change of seasons is coming for the
Sure.
sporting events and all the other music and fine arts events, too.
It's a big high school music weekend. coming
It
up.
is.
Soul and Ensemble, and
Oh, that
there's
is
a choir
coming
event on Sunday. Yes, it's busy. Well, it's a good time of year.
It is. No further board activities. Next is the additional appropriate matters. Do we have any additional appropriate matters for the board to bring up? No? Okay. Next is our second opportunity for audience to visitors and delegations. If anyone would like to address the board, please step forward and do so at this time. Oh, yes? Right over to the podium. And if you could give us your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Brianna Burgess. I am a junior at Fond du Lac High School. And last year I was co-leader of SAGE, Sexuality and Gender Equality. And last year we were attempting to get gender identity and gender expression into the anti-discrimination policy, working with Dr. Siebert, Marion Sheridan, and Mrs. Hagan. And towards the end of the school year, we lost contact as a new president was elected for the school board. So we were wondering where that anti-discrimination policy has gone, if there are plans to update it, because there are many transgender and gender nonconforming students, specifically at Fond du Lac High School, not necessarily open about their identities, but still feeling unsafe because teachers can misgender them or use different pronouns or names than what they prefer. And there will be no repercussions because gender identity and gender expression is not in the anti-discrimination policy. I know that it has made members of SAGE feel unsafe and unwelcome at Fond du Lac High School, including myself. So I pass the question on to you. Do you plan on updating the anti-discrimination policy anytime soon? And how do you plan to ensure it and enforce it?
Well, and I can answer part of that we were awaiting the state to offer some guidance because there was a possibility they were going to put a statewide policy in place, or at least some sort of mandate, which they did not do ultimately. And then, as you mentioned, there became a new president, and there's some turmoil again in this area. Certainly after the school year is over is when we reevaluate our policies, and that will be one of the items which will be on our discussion to examine and see if there is any more clarity, to see if there's anything further as far as guidance from either the state or federal government that we need to be aware of. But that's why I think last year, when you say lost contact, that's what went on there, is we were awaiting further guidance, which ultimately never came, sadly. And but we will address policies. A whole bunch of policies are going to be addressed by the school board after the school year ends.
Okay.
And so I'd welcome, whatever input you or others have that you feel would be appropriate for this particular policy.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Siebert, anything to add to that?
Thank you.
No, tremendous answer by Mr. Jurgella. And Brianna, perhaps Mrs. Sheridan and Mrs. Hagan and I can come out and meet with you and others again and talk as the spring evolves here and we get, as Mr. Jurgella said, some more clarity from both the state and federal level.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing
Thank
this
you
up
for
again,
coming.
Brianna. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board in audience to visitors and delegations? Please feel free to step forward. Okay, seeing no further, we will close audience to visitors and delegations and move forward to adjournment to a workshop. If we could have a motion for that, please.
I move the Board of Education adjourn the regular meeting and convene in a workshop for the secondary principal data updates and to also discuss the Fond du Lac High School Fieldhouse gym floor. Board will recess the workshop to travel to Fond du Lac High School at 801 Campus Drive for a tour and review of the gym floor.
Second.
We have a motion by Breister and a second by Jones. If there's no discussion. Okay, let's commence. Okay, let's call to order the workshop, the Board of Education. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Preister,
Here.
Hayes here, Jones.
Here.
Net,
Here.
Strand,
Here.
Uselman,
Here.
Churchill.
Here. And we are here for this workshop to hear the secondary principal data updates. And Dr. Siebert?
Sure. No, I'd love to.
What order
get
do we
started.
have these fine folks in?
Well, we've got a wonderful lineup here of middle schools, the STEM Institute, which is also a middle school and high school, and Fond du Lac High School. So remember with the elementary principals last week, we started by Danica kind of reviewing the new approach to goal setting, which is shared by the secondary schools. So if anyone has any questions about that, Danica could certainly refresh, or I could help her refresh. But otherwise, we can just launch right into the
Certainly.
the data reports. Okay. So Don, would you like to start? You have the microphone. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, we all get a microphone this time around. So when you take a look at both the Institute's reading and math goal, our goal was to have 80% of our students, or say our goal is to have 80% of our students at above the 70th percentile. Kind of remembering the 70th percentile in MAPS corresponds to about a 22 on the ACT. So our goal is to get 80% of our students above that level. At the midwinter point, I say we started the year with 45% of our students there in reading and 44% of our students were there in math. And we're just only a tick above that right now. We're at 46% are above in reading, and then 47 are above in math. When we really break down that data at the Institute, we realize our 6th grade group is a group we're having a data dig now this upcoming week to really dig in to see what's going on with that group, because our 7th and 8th grade saw tremendous growth and huge shifts in the percentage of students above kind of the 67th, 70th percentile, but our 6th grade actually saw a dramatic decline. So it's something we're going to kind of dig into to learn more. Also in reading, we just wanted to point out that in the fall periodic, 13% of our kids we're at the readiness level of ninth graders, I should say, in reading. And at the mid-year point, at the peak to stay at 43% of our kids. So we went from 13% of our kids up to 43. So we're pretty excited about that growth of our ninth graders. Also then in our behavior section, you can see last year we had one of our students had 2+ majors. So we're kind of trying to figure out, zero in more on who are our kids who had majors and what were those majors for. So you can see then 14 of our students last year had at least one, and 11 of those were for obtaining peer attention. That still continues to be an issue we're working on. We take a look at our data trends to date, that 6 out of our 110 students have a major, with one of them has more than one, but unfortunately 5 out of the 6 still have a major for obtaining peer attention inappropriately. So that's something that is a focus for us, and we're still continuing to work with our students individually to kind of begin to work on that and help them out more. So, you know, we're working on it, but obviously that's why it's our goal when 5 out of 6 are at that point. Yeah. Any questions I have for me?
Questions from the board on that? STEM? So how did you choose which goals you wanted to see?
We're really taking a look at, for us, we're driving with the academic part, thinking of the ACT, and what do our students really need to get into college. And so we know that a 21, 22 really can get them into almost any school in Wisconsin they'd like, or at least set them up to be successful. And so that's where we're really striving to shoot for, is pushing all of our kids to get them, if they want to go to college, they have the ability to. So that's our goal, is to set them up. So that's why we picked those numbers, is to try to give them that option if they want to.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Brad and Amy. Tyson.
Hi, thank you. We're going to highlight a little bit more of an action step that I think we're proud of, but it's probably the most work that we've done, maybe ever, to make a dent for our students and what we've learned from our school report card. So you might notice in some of your data there, one of our action steps is to research and to do more with the results of our school report card. Our school goals for math and for reading are to certainly make increments, higher achieving increments in the area of our MAPS assessment, but we'll highlight a little bit of what we've done with that, with the school report card. So we had a very solid school report card, but we really picked it apart probably more than ever and learned a lot from that. And all of our professional development right now has been geared towards learning that more and breaking apart our subgroups. So the subgroup that we've been, Amy will talk about a couple of them, but we originally spoke to our PLCs, our professional learning communities, with our teacher teams on English and language arts. We spent time with them individually. We celebrated our math achievement. We were very strong in math, but we noticed there's a lot of room to grow for language arts. So we made it a point to sit down with those teachers, look at those report cards, specifically break apart the demographic groups with them independently, and really talk about goals with them in terms of how that could transform their teaching. So that was a fun effort to do early. Not easy to do early because we had to make some changes to the way we do things, and that's kind of up to them. But a lot of that work now has turned into professional development for our staff meeting, which carries over into our PLCs actually the following day. Staff meetings are Wednesdays. The following day we always meet with the teams on Thursdays. So we turn that learning right from the staff meeting into learning and modeling with our PLC groups. So we did that with the report card data, and Amy's going to talk about a couple other subgroups that we've worked on with that too, because we still have plans yet to come for that. So a lot of professional development that we're trying to enhance to get to those numbers up.
So like Brad mentioned, we're using our staff meeting time to do professional development this year. And 2 of the staff meetings that we've had were completely surrounding the subgroups of our ELL population and our Hispanic population on one day. And then the one that we're having actually tomorrow is a trauma-sensitive presentation to help with students who have had adverse childhood experiences and trauma. We're also including a lot of mental health information in that. So that helps with our subgroups of free and reduced lunch, helps with our subgroups of students with disabilities, and that one kind of covers a lot of different issues that children are facing. So when we have these staff meetings, we're including experts. For our ELL, we had our ELL teacher and also the ELL teacher from Fond du Lac High School, Elaine. thank you for borrowing her to us for one day, come and talk with our staff, and then also come to, like he said, the PLCs the next day and really dive deep into those kids in each grade level. And then tomorrow, our school counselor and our school psychologist, as well as the two of us, are presenting. And we're using some of the trauma-sensitive language from the grants that are already in the district, from the 3 schools that are already doing that.
So it sounds like the data is working for you to help identify specific areas instead of just generalities.
Exactly, especially in our school report card, it really broke everything down into the subgroups very well. So we could see those that we really needed to look at first. And we're actually enjoying it so much that we're going to try to hit as many subgroups as we can this year.
Great. I think that's the point of all of this, is to figure out what you need to do and who you need to do it with. And it's good to hear. Thank you.
Amy and Steve.
I'm going to start with our behavior goal that we decided to work on this year with our team leaders. When we first originally thought about what we wanted to target, we had a lot of different ideas and decided to come down to just basically looking at some survey data that we've accumulated when we give out surveys to our staff, not just our staff, but our parents and also our students. We wanted to hit and target a specific area that was really sensitive to most of us. We had received input from baseline data that 35% of our 7th grade students rated Woodworth as a place to have at least one adult or staff that really cares about me. And we just felt that that kind of hit home to all of us because we would obviously like that percentage to be much higher. So we decided to target that specifically. Instead of mostly working on reducing majors or minors or any of those kind of things, we wanted to build community within our schools so that students knew that we wanted them there and we really did care. So we started to come up with different strategies, which were not like new, recreated things. Making sure staff are in the hallways greeting kids, making sure they're always there to make things safe, fluent, easy, smooth. At the beginning of the year, we took pictures of each child and we placed them on tables in our library. And then we had all staff members go through specifically for our 7th and 8th graders to identify if somebody knew that child, what they were connected to, how we could reconnect them with more curriculars, more activities that they could be a part of. And then with our 6th grade group, once we got to know them over the first couple of weeks of school, we then revisited that same process with them and started encouraging them to join different things. So that was one of the ways that we wanted to help them feel that, hey, we do want you to be a part of the things we're doing here. In addition to that, we've created a PBS-T team this year who is specifically helping our staff meet the needs of some of our struggling students that are consistently just coming up. And after the teams have done their efforts to put in place any type of supports, and they just kind of have put all of the tools out on the table and they don't have much left in their toolbox, they then bring it to a PBS-T team, which then uses the brain power and the experiences of many of us to come together to kind of brainstorm different ideas for each of the students. And that not only helps our students, but it helps our staff feel supported across our building, which is something that's been very helpful. So at the beginning of this school year, when we surveyed our students, we had 60.5% of our students say that they strongly agreed that at least one adult or staff really cared about me. That was in, what month is that, November? October. And then currently 60% are at that as well, where they have also said that. That does not include our 7th grade, though, because they are taking the district-wide survey. So we're hoping to see that continue to increase.
So it's taken a pretty good step
Yeah.
forward from where you were. Did you theorize why it might have been 35% at all?
Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's kind of one of the things that's why our team leaders really picked that one, is because it hurts.
It
is
jumped
that
out at
because
you.
We feel that we do care about each individual
Yes.
student and that somebody should have a connection with everybody as you get down. Now, when we did that activity, it is interesting, though, there's some students you're like, wow, this student does not have a connection with the school. They're not part of something or do so, and how can we connect? So we're trying to work and connect with those students, get them involved somehow in some way with the school.
Okay, good. No, that's a really good goal, I think, for what you saw there to improve on.
So just hopefully we can continue with it. And then for our academic goals, we are working with the district goal and our school goal. Like with reading, we're using our maps for 100% of all students to meet that district growth. Currently, we reviewed last year, the 41 and 44% of our current students had made their growth last year. So really, Fond du Lac School District, I'm sure you probably heard, is partnering with CESA 6. We're working through the reading apprenticeship across all disciplines. So this year, Tyson and Woodworth and STEM have had some training. Sabish is the baseline group, so they're unfortunately have not had the training yet, but it's coming. Tori keeps giving me the evil eye when that comes up, so I'll not look at her again. But our staff really is, our 8th grade really has taken it, and it's phenomenal. As we actually sat through, we had a representative from CESA 6 who's working through all the schools right now and our instructional coaches. So we actually got to see a blend of that today with our 8th grade teachers who have not had that actual individual teaching yet coming from our mentor coaches and those things. But they're using the RAD strategy and what they knew, and it's really phenomenal what we're seeing so far. So they're working across all grade levels. It's one of the things I could like to say about is all my years of this is one of the trainings we were complimented that we were the only principals who've actually gone to all 5 days of the training that they've had in numerous states of this. But we found it valuable, and we kept going back because, you know, oftentimes you're like, oh, is this a good idea, but it's not pertinent. It was beyond pertinent. We really found value in it and what they were doing, and something that all teachers can do. So we found it. So Brianne Barthuli, like to call her out, that she's our coach right now, and she's really done a great job. Gone into other classrooms, other grade levels, and actually taught some of the strategies that bring them on, because they're really phenomenal things. And we kind of highlighted some of the things she's working on in there. You can see that it really that 8th grade, and it's a great indicator to start out with. That almost half our students are at that district goal mark, and that's a group that's really been trained with it. And we're kind of working towards next year having our 6th and 7th grade also trained on it. 7th grade, you can see our goals there, and then 6th grade did a pilot program with iReady that Mr. Smith may or may not have shared what's going on. It's just a different tool than MAPS. So they're using that. We just use what they were at as their score for that. Mathematics, again, we are looking at hopefully 75% will meet that district growth. Historically, we've almost achieved that mark, and that's kind of what we're looking for. And we've really highlighted the things that other teachers can do in their classroom is by some of the language that being used, like attending to precision, modeling, justify your answer, just among other things. If we're using that language across all areas, when they use it in the math, it's like, oh, I've heard this, and we're just kind of building and trying to really work through that. So there's our scores underneath there, a little lower than we want, so we've kind of dug some history. That's not uncommon to be about at that point, at the midpoint, which means we have to boost a little bit more to get to that 75% though. So that's kind of what we're working on right now at Woodworth.
Any questions for Woodworth?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Keep up the
Mr. Hill.
great work.
Thank you, sir. John and Tori, Sabish.
So looking at Sabish's behavior goal, last year Sabish, 86% of our students did not receive more than one major referral, 0 or 1. And our goal was to increase that. And as of January 31st, we're at 94% of our students not having received more than one major referral. And if you look at the bottom of the sheet, you'll see the breakdown. 73% of our kids haven't had any majors or minors. So 3/4 of our kids are, you know, just absolutely stellar. And that doesn't mean that if you had a minor that you're not stellar. It just means, you know, you haven't been perfect. So one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is an action step that the school took this year. Jared Deli is a science teacher, 6th grade science teacher, and he's our internal coach. And a school north of us has been running a think tank, which Dr. Siebert, I believe you're probably familiar with.
Think tank.
Because it comes from a school that you're familiar with. Okay. Anyway, it really it has given us an opportunity. We've had 6 teachers who have given up their lunches whenever it's needed. It could be 5 days a week. It could be 1 day a week. And they sit down with the kids who have had minor referrals. And they just try to talk them through what happened and what choices they could have made or they can make next time that would be different from what they did this time. And it has really helped the teachers who are involved to develop relationships with those kids, to help those kids feel like they were saying earlier, that somebody cares about them, that this isn't just, we're not pushing papers, and that we are concerned about them growing and learning and becoming all they can become. So,
Is that one-on-one or is that a group setting that they're doing that?
well, it depends on the number of students. We could have 3 or 4 kids, but they talk them through individually.
Okay.
So they might spend about 10 minutes. In a 30-minute lunch, if they have 3 kids, they could accomplish all of it because we have 2 teachers at each grade. So.
Thank you, John.
Moving on to the language arts, we looked at, we actually had created our overall rubric, and that was, I have to give a shout out to Miss Melinda Miller. It was really her vision. She saw it, she had it all, and we just all listened, and we just asked questions. And she says, yes, I can see it. And so what we took a look at, our rubric, we looked at for language arts, our MAP scores, our standard proficiency, so taking the work of Mike Matos with the essential standards and our essential learnings with those standards, and then our Lucy Calkins units of study rubrics, and taking all 3 of those prongs and saying, that's the work that we really want to do, and we'll want to get good at each of those work. And hopefully you should have copies of that. I did attach it at one point, so I don't know if that came through or not. If you would like it, I can certainly give it to you if you don't have a copy of it. And then we actually sit down with our students in KIP. So through our intervention and enrichment, and we have conversations with our kids. So we had a pre-assessment in September that I think they got assessed in October, and then again in January, and then again at the end of March after the 3rd quarter, and then at the end of the year. And so we take a look at the kids' growth, and we have conversations with them of where do they feel that they're doing well. So it's really kind of helped us have those powerful conversations again, and then help us set our goal setting on a bigger, wider scale for them to really dive deep into what specific skills do they want to actually set for a goal, instead of just saying, oh, I'd like to get better in math, or I'd like to get better with problem solving, or I'd like to get better with looking at statistics or probability. No, what specifically? Let's dig down deep into that. So our highlighted action step is really looking at the Lucy Calkins unit of study with fidelity, and making certain that too often that can be the part of, when you are on a beginning journey, it's too easy to fall back into old patterns. And especially when you're a very successful teacher, two come to mind, like 2 beautiful literacy teachers who have been doing this for a very long period of time, who I love to death, and struggled through the beginning part, and I kept saying, just trust me. I taught it in De Pere, and I thought I was a really good literacy teacher, and by the end of the year, I watched what my kids could do, and I was like, wow. Just trust the process. And it was really letting go of who you were as a teacher, and being new, and being willing to start fresh again with that growth mindset, and being okay with being a novice at something, and letting go of the fact that you don't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's going to be messy, and that's what learning should be. And now they're 2 of the huge sellers of the school of, this is a beautiful process, and Lucy Calkins does work, and they're my champion cheerleaders through our school, and once a month we actually meet together, 7 o'clock in the morning. We did it this morning. I bring breakfast, and all of us 6, 7, 8, and our special education ELL and our ELL teachers, and we sit and talk about Lucy Calkins' framework, and even my 8th graders have not started in the process yet, but getting them ready. They have started the process, but they haven't officially started, if you will. But they are part of
the conferring method and what that looks like in using the walkthrough model, and what does it look like in a mini lesson, and really having those courageous conversations of how do you let go of doing this for 20-some years and taking on a new curve. So we've had some good data trends to date using that rubric and some good growth, and I feel as if we are on track to meeting that 80% proficiency by the end of the year. And I know you have that data in front of you, so I don't need to read that for you. And in mathematics, we looked at, again, like Brad had said, digging deeply into our state testing, and we could see that in one grade level we had amazing strength, amazing talent, and in another one we were not as strong, and we looked at that and we had courageous conversations as team leaders, and we asked a lot of hard questions, and we challenged one another in a very respectful way and in a good way of what can we do to get better, and what is it that we need to do collectively as a school to push our students in that constructivist model, and where do we think that we're falling a little bit short, and where do we need to push the pedal and give the gas, because how can one grade level be excelling so far and one grade level be all of a sudden be at a pause level? There's something there, and it wasn't just 1 year, it happened multiple years, so we know something's going on, and we had those courageous conversations and brought teachers into the process, and through that we said, you know what, we built it into the rubric, and we said if this is something we really believe in, then you know what, in math we're going to not only look at math scores, and we're not only going to look at the standards of proficiency, again taking the work of Mike Matos and Essential Learning, that all of the math teachers decided yes, these are the power standards that they feel are absolutely essential for the grade level, but we're going to look at that performance task, and we are going to look at that constructivist thinking, and we are going to ensure that this is happening once a month in a performance task where the students are being assessed on it, and when they're being assessed on it, it better be happening 2 to 3 times at the very minimum during the week in order for them to be practicing it. Because what we know, you're not going to be able to perform if you never practice. Find me a team out there anywhere that can just perform without practice. It doesn't exist. And so that has been our push, and really not so much of a push, but really of what a PLC looks like, of how can we learn from one another. And that's been the beauty of like, okay, so what did you use? Use that Mars website. Where is it? Can you show it to me? How did you find that? Okay, what did you use? That's Socratic. What did you use? Okay, can you show it to me? And that is the magic. And I even love the little conversations of, okay, so how much longer maybe, are we gonna get CPM at any point? And then I'm like, yes, that's the kind of conversation I want to be happening. So that even before that's even out there being talked to, that they're hungry for it and they want something a little bit different. So again, our data's to trend, they're showing growth and in the right areas. But we're still on that road to grow. Any
That
questions?
last thing you just said caught me, so you don't have CPM at all levels right now, or
I have CPM just the same as everybody else at algebra and geometry.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
So not down in the middle school.
Yeah, so not
But they
6,
do have a
7,
middle
8.
school program, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Say it again?
Do they do a middle school program for
Ye-
that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
So
I
we're-
only know that 'cause my daughter did it.
Were you satisfactorily able to identify why grades were not maintaining when they went from one grade to another? And you were able to have, like you called them, courageous conversations and have some adjustments made? And you're feeling good about where it's headed now?
Yes. 'Cause
Sounds like.
I think it's sometimes where we think that that traditional approach sometimes fits best within us, right, as teachers, because that's the way we've always done it. And sometimes you have to figure out, like, okay, what is uncomfortable about allowing that constructiveness, allowing the students in front of you to have the
Right.
control? Because who's really doing the learning when you're the sage on the stage? Who's really doing all the learning? Who's doing all the learning?
Right.
Who needs to be doing all the learning? And who needs to be doing all the learning? And so the more that you keep pushing that, more that they get comfortable with it in the classroom.
It's hard to have that first conversation, though, I imagine.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Well, I commend you for taking that step.
Well, that's progress, not perfection.
Good. Great.
Thanks, Tori. All right, Fond du Lac High School, we have Marissa, Michelle, and Kevin, and Dave.
Okay. We're going to be starting out just talking about the school goals for English and Language Arts. We based all of our school goals on our 2016 ACT scores, and that information is there for you as well. And what we did for both English, for English reading, writing, and also for our math was just added 10% to that for our stretch goal for how high we wanted the kids to be able to score on the next ACT. That is information we don't have for you because we will be giving that tomorrow. So hopefully that works out really well. We've been working very hard on that, and my colleagues are going to give us some more information on that. But in support of our English goal, one of the things that we've been doing, as you guys know from having heard me before, we're working with our heritage language speakers as a subgroup because their scores also figure into this. And so as much development as we can do with them in their native language to also help them with their English language skills and have that transference of skill from one level to, or from one language to another, that's what we're working on. And the last time I spoke to you, we had done the DORA test, which is a diagnostic online reading assessment, and it's a computer adaptive test that the kids take that gets harder as they, the more answers they have that are correct, the harder it gets. And they had taken that at the beginning of the year, so we had some kind of baseline data for that. And they were recently reassessed on that, and they're assessed on actually 8 different skills. And I won't bore you with all of the data on that, but some really interesting things that came out of that in the spelling section of that. And remember, a lot of these kids come from backgrounds where they speak Spanish, but they do not read or write it, and they've never had that experience. And so we had skill levels from the very kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade, depending on who the kids were and where they'd come from, what their background was. So with the spelling, their average gain was half to 1 grade level, and the largest gain was almost 4 grade levels for one of those students.
How many students do you have in that class?
There's about 33 in there. So that's, for that one student, that's 4 grade levels between September and December, which is an amazing, huge gain. Their oral vocabulary, just the words that they understand that they're able to use, because a lot of them come from a background where they don't use standard Spanish. The average gain was 2 grade levels, and the largest was 9. And reading comprehension, again, because you have a lot of that aren't readers in their own language, the average gain there was 3 grade levels, and the largest was 5.5. So we're seeing huge gains in all of those skills for these students just in a very, very short period of time. So I'm going to be excited to see how they'll do at the end of the year, and also getting some access information and being able to compare how they do on the access and also how they do on the ACT. So we can hopefully start to see some trends, not just in their native language, but also in their English language skills and their ability to score well on the college test.
One of the things we'd like to talk to about is our behavioral goal. And our goal is to meet the district goal of 100% of Fond du Lac students will demonstrate positive behaviors by having no more than 0 to 1 referrals. Last year we had 88% of our high school students that had 0 to 1 referral. We actually made a stretch goal of 93% and thought, wouldn't that be amazing if we could reach that? Pulling the data as of January 31st, 91% of our students had 0 to 1 referral, and that translates to 1,877 students. So we're actually doing better than we were last year, although we aren't probably going to meet our goal of the 93%. One thing interesting to notice is that as of February 9th, 81 students of the high school, which is 1,697, haven't had any referral. And that's an increase from last year from 76%. So that is tremendous growth. And I am very proud of the school and the work that the PBIS team has done, in particular our Tier 1 team. We've revitalized the program, introducing Cardinal coins to students. They're excited about earning Cardinal coins. Students are very excited about the opportunity to get weekly prizes. Teachers are buying into PBIS. So for the first time since I've been a part of Fond du Lac High School, I think PBIS is really making a difference with regard to students and their approach to positive behavior and teacher recognizing what students are doing well. One of the other things is when we looked at our climate survey data last year, and in looking and pulling our teachers together, asking teachers, what might this look like if you were to strongly agree with this statement? And we looked at some of the areas around the school and the safety and teachers' perception. One of the pieces of feedback that we received as an administrative team was improving the turnaround time for referrals. So we had that information, and then over the summer, really kind of looked at the data that, what has our turnaround time have been for responding to referrals. And last year, the average for a response to a referral was 13 point something days, which, if that's the average, there were some referrals that hadn't been necessarily closed out for a longer period of time. So we have made that a focus as an administrative team, responding in a very timely manner, both for students for their behaviors to be addressed, and to let teachers know that we've recognized that concern, and that we want to respond to them in a timely manner. Our average turnaround time is now 1.76 days as a team. So I do think that the responsive turnaround time has helped improve our student behavior as well.
Yeah, I think that was something each of us heard too, was referrals and the turnaround time. And if that's where you're at now, congratulations, that's fantastic to hear. I think everybody's been waiting to hear something like that.
All right, if we switch gears a little bit and we look at the English and the math goals that we had, we approached it in a multifaceted action plan. The first one is PLC framework, and just quickly to review what a PLC looks like at the high school. Remember, it's a course-alike, oftentimes a grade level. So, for example, our English department has 5 PLCs in it. English 9, there's 4 teachers that teach English 9, English 10, et cetera, et cetera. So they have common planning time. They are required to meet at least twice a week with their PLC. So that's when we talk about the framework, just to kind of give you a little bit of background there. So this year we took a little different approach to our PLC framework. We made it a little bit more focused for the staff, so that just to make sure that they're using their PLC time efficiently, effectively, that they're solution oriented. We have a workflow that we have been going through with the staff periodically throughout the school year, just again to make them more efficient and effective, to make sure that they're kind of following the steps that a good team does when they're looking at an issue or a problem, that sort of thing. So when they're looking at student data, when they're looking at their formative assessments, summative assessments, if there's something that they as a PLC see that is an issue or a problem area, they can kind of go through the steps to make sure that they're not just getting at a standstill, or they're able to move forward and come up with a solution again, because that's what we're looking for and our focus for our PLCs for this year. Some other things that we're looking at, where they have a little different framework again when they meet. They have meeting agendas every time they get together. They review their PLC norms, that each PLC has different norms. So for example, Tech Ed, which is technical education, like shop classes, that's going to look a little different than Phi Ed or English, that sort of thing. So they go through those at each meeting, making sure that they're focusing again on hopefully academic achievement. Sometimes that behavior and the academics overlap a little bit, but more so on the academics. So again, they can focus on our SMART goals or our school goals of English, math, and behavior. So just, again, tightening up the framework a little bit of the PLCs to make sure that they're focused, and I think the results will be, kind of speaking for themselves as you look through the packet for the English and the math, and maybe somewhat even for the behavior as well. If the PLCs are looking at things appropriately as far as behavior, that will also help with our referral, the number of referrals that we have. Another area that we focused on this year is goal setting at the end of the first quarter. We took a little different focus this year. Any students who had an F in the class at the end of the first quarter, and remember, quarters at the high school is just a checkpoint. We only go by semester grade. So quarter is a checkpoint. Any student who has an F, that content area teacher, there's a goal setting sheet that the student and the teacher filled out collaboratively, trying to, again, come up with some kind of plan, again, to be solution oriented, to come up with, what exactly is the problem? Is it a behavior that's leading to this? Is it absences, getting the parents involved? what kind of interventions can that staff member and that student use, Cardinal Time, Cardinal Club, that sort of thing. Again, just to be really solution-oriented, to look at it student by student, so that student and that staff member can sit down one by one during a Cardinal Time, perhaps during class, but usually during a Cardinal Time, just to come up with a plan of action. We actually have a really nice form that we put together collaboratively, again, with the input of staff, obviously, just so the parents, the staff member, and the student are all on the same page as far as what kind of the goal is going forward, and just focusing in on what those problem areas are and developing a plan so that student can then see success. And I think in the data, again, for the English, the math, and the behavior, you can see that is working so far this school year, even though we've only used it for 1 quarter. So I think the proof is in the numbers as far as that's concerned.
Wonderful. Could I
Sorry. Yeah,
do
go ahead.
Do you also do that with students who earn Ds?
It was kind of up to the staff. Some staff did ask that. We had asked staff to use their own discretion. We had asked them to start off for sure with students that have Fs at that checkpoint, but there definitely were quite a few staff members that did take it that extra step and say, well, I don't really have a lot of Fs. Can I use this, with students who have Ds? And we were absolutely, the more students, again, you can intervene and try to come up with a plan and get parents involved and really try to hone in on what the issue is, if it's behavioral, if it's academic, and try to spend more individual time with those students to help them succeed.
Because if they did, they probably could save a lot of students before they sunk.
Correct, exactly. Yes, and we hope to expand that as well going forward. So, this was a trial run in November that we use, for the second quarter. And yeah, we're definitely looking to, get more and more students involved, because that's what we want to do, intervene as early as possible.
I think that program sounds like it's really good to me. I'm glad you're doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of it.
Did your program determine whether absenteeism was more the problem versus behavior, or could you tell?
I think it's probably mixed results. Yeah, some of it, obviously, if attendance is an issue, that is going to interfere with their academic success, but there were oftentimes also where academics, they just weren't understanding the material, so that was really good for that teacher and that student to be able to sit down and fill out this goal sheet and really come up with, okay, maybe Cardinal Time isn't going to work because you're too booked up, but before school, after school, lunch, study hall, things like that. So I think it really expanded just those lines of communication and those opportunities for intervention.
Yeah, good, great, thank you.
I think one of the transitions into Dave coming in is that one of the things we did find out were some of the work habits. That was a concern as people were going through their academic reflection sheets. It was that students maybe weren't turning in their homework or getting it done on time, and so that'll lead to another action step that we put forth this year.
Okay.
Through discussions with teachers and through looking at our data, we could tell that we did have an issue with students who were not completing work on time. We're using our reassessment policy to their advantage, because what it was being interpreted as students would have the entire semester up until 5 days before the end of the semester to turn any assignment in, a summative assignment that they felt that they could turn in without ever doing it the first time, or with doing it maybe poorly the first time and then reassessing. So one of the things that we looked at was to revamp the reassessment guidelines that we put into place for our students. So the first step that we put into place through collaborating with our teachers was to have a 2-day limit where students had to initiate the reassessment policy by contacting their teacher and filling out the correct paperwork for an extended deadline. If they were absent the day the assignment is due, they'd get 2 days from when they returned, but they would get 2 days to fill out the assignment with a minimum of a 1-day extension on the assessment piece. Now, a summative assessment could be a quiz, it could be a test, it could be a paper, lab work, anything that was deemed to be basically a concluding assignment for a standard activity. The second support would be as if a student missed that extended deadline would be they'd revisit the reassessment policy form. There would be a scripted email or telephone conversation that would go home to the parents. And the student would then be given 2 more days to finish the assignment. If the student did not finish the assignment in that period of time, they would then be sent to Cardinal Club for 2 final days. If they did not complete it at that point, then they would be given an NYA into the grade book. But hopefully through this process, we're keeping the focus more on the learning than necessarily just reassessing for the grade that the student wants. It's a little more fresh in their minds. It's something that can be completed to help them reach the standards of proficiency that we are hoping for with our students. And what we've seen so far is that it has been rather successful with our students. We haven't seen or heard a lot of resistance yet from our students. They have kind of been getting on board. If this is the expectation, they've been following through. And our teachers, I think, appreciate the fact that they will not be receiving something that was due 82 days ago, 5 days before the semester ends. So, so far we've looked at it as a very positive thing.
Any comments from the board? I think you hit the nail on the head there with that one too.
Thank you.
Good for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
So
other
just to be
discussion item?
clear, I have one question.
Go right ahead.
So if a student fails to turn in the assignment, the student fills out the form and gets 2 days extension.
It can actually be a minimum. The minimum is 1 day. So they have 2 days to fill out the form. So if they miss it on a Tuesday, they didn't have their assignment done. They have until Thursday to turn in the paperwork. At that point, it's an agreement between the teacher and the student at what time it could be turned in, depending on what the circumstance is. And maybe it is just a non-understanding of the lesson that they need reteaching in it. It may take some time.
So the teacher definitely has input.
There
on
is teacher
when-
discretion in every
'cause
step of the way.
Sometimes we hear they don't, and I just wanted to clarify.
There's teacher discretion in every step of this policy on when the assignment can be due. They could say it's due tomorrow, or they could say, hey, let's look at it in about 10 days. It's up to them.
Good. Thank you.
Great.
Good report.
Thank you.
Any other board members with questions, comments?
No, I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you guys put together and discussed with us tonight. This is very enlightening, as always, and hopefully you guys reach all your goals next time we're here and you have nothing to tell us, but yeah, we hit them. We're good.
I think these reports are getting better and better.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate it because we like to know what's going on. So when we hear complaints, we can say, well, actually, this is the way it goes.
Right.
And maybe some parents don't know the procedure, so then we're able to
Well, in today's world, not everybody learns at the same rate.
It just shows that everybody's really concerned about kids learning, and that's very heartening.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the sense is you're using the data for what you need it for and getting the results that you're hoping for too. So keep at it. Thank you, everybody, again, for being here tonight.
Excellent work, everybody. Thank you.
Yes, it's a
Very
good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dismissed.
I make a motion to adjourn the workshop.
Well, first, we're going to meet here for a short period before we move. The gym floor.
Gym floor. I thought we were gonna go see the gym floor.
We're going to have just a little discussion here,
Then we're gonna go.
and then we're going to go. I asked Mr. Williams to just give us a brief something
he's gonna
here
give us a
while we're all
rundown.
still together.
Okay.
It's okay with me. Yeah.
Never mind. Never mind.
So yes, our next item on the agenda is to discuss the Fond du Lac High School Fieldhouse gym floor. And we're going to have some brief interaction here with Mr. Williams about that. And then we will reconvene over at the high school for observations and further discussion. Mr. Williams, proceed.
Good evening. This is one of those conversations you hope you never have to have, but it's one that we have to have. In 2003, the floor was installed in the year 2000 when the school was built. And in 2003, we began to see some cracked boards. So I contacted the contractor that installed the floor, and the first thing I learned is that we had a 1-year warranty on the floor, and we did not purchase any extensions of that warranty. They didn't really offer us solutions or resolutions to our issue, and indicated that they were not really obligated to make the repairs under the warranty. They suggested that part of our problem was we used to have rolling bleachers that we could roll at the ends of the courts. We have since gotten rid of those bleachers because that was one of the things they thought was the issue. And we find out that really it's not the issue because it doesn't explain the issues that we're having in the small gym, which was put in at the same time and it's the same system. So it really didn't solve that issue. That first year, and the picture that I have up there right now, you can see, if you can see I don't know, does the cursor show up on the?
Yeah.
So this crack, this is what ends up happening, and then these chunks come out. So that first year, they replaced 57 boards. That was about $2,200 to replace 57 boards in 2003.
What is that?
Maple. So in 2004 to 2008, I worked with the same contractor in the hopes that we could get a resolution to this issue. And some of the things, if you can see, this small board typically, the smallest board you would use on a floor is 9 inches. That certainly isn't 9 inches. And you can see in the picture on the right, those two boards have been replaced. So that's what that looks like in terms of we're doing board replacement as it continues from 2004 to 2008.
Can I just clarify, the person who's doing the board replacement, is that the same company that originally put the floor in?
Yes, I was trying to work with them to hopefully to come to a resolution that they would see that we've had some issues and they would maybe step up to the plate to do that. In 2008, I discontinued the relationship with that vendor because we weren't getting anywhere. And I started a new relationship with Stalker Flooring. And in 2008 and 9, he came and he assessed. We were still replacing boards at that time, but gave us a really good assessment. Steve is on the board for the Maple Floor Manufacturing Association, and he also does their technical writing. So when he was giving us that information on our floor condition, I was pretty confident because they would also do, the Maple Floor Manufacturers Association also comes out and looks at floors and inspects floors. So because Steve was on their technical writing group, I was able to work with him to find out really what was going on with our floor, what kinds of things could we do to try to save the floor as long as we could. So in 2010 is when we really had some issues, and if you can, and it might be difficult to see, but all of these on the picture on the right, all of these little dots that you're seeing, those are boards that needed to be replaced. So the cursor's on one, there's a group here, and on the picture on the left, this was a larger section that needed to be replaced of
This is
boards.
because they were breaking?
Correct. They were cracked or a chunk was out of it. So that year we replaced 650 boards. It was about an $11,000 expense. And then it was additionally a $40,000 expense to have the floor sanded and refinished. And we were hoping that that would take care of some of our issues, to sand it and get it refinished. So then in 2011 through 13, we continued to do board repairs, we continued to watch and monitor the floor, and we continued to do the recoating. And that happens every year, the recoating. So then in 2014, we again had some repairs. We spent about $9,400 that year to replace cracked boards, broken boards. And we also replaced the vault. There was a vault cover in the floor that was damaged that needed to be replaced. So then in 2015, we recorded and we continued to do board repairs. 2016, last summer, we had a major repair. And if you can see on the picture on the left, you can see the lighter colored floor. So that's a large section that was redone. And on the right also is the same, just a different angle of it. That was replaced last summer because we ended up having a hole in the floor and then multiple cracks in that area. So we ended up having to repair that. And that was about a $7,600 repair. At that point, we knew that we were having some underlayment issues. And as you can see, this is kind of the result of that. The picture on the left, that's a big chunk that's gone. And what's happening, and I'll show you in the next slide, and then also this large crack that's here. So to date, and I apologize, on your board, on the memo I sent to the board, I said I think $20,000. It's $70,000. Okay. And the year that I also had in 2014, we refinished the floor. That was incorrect. It was 2010 we did the field house. 2014 we did the small gym. But I don't want to confuse the two issues. There's separate issues here.
Well, are any of these costs, the original gym floor was put in at the high school in what year?
2000. 2000.
And was there any guarantee that the floor would last? for
1 year.
1
They gave us a 1-year warranty. And I'll show you on these other floors. So, the structure, the current floor, this is our current floor at the high school right now, the piece that you're seeing here. And you can see where the arrow is here, that is really just mimicking the concrete. So there's concrete, then there's a little gray section also on here, and that is a rubber, you can see on here, it's kind of a foam pad. And then they put down plywood, and then on this particular floor, they don't put another layer of plywood, they put sleepers down. And the standard for them is normally 9 inches on center, which gives you a 6-inch gap between. These are set at 13 inches on center, which gives you about a 9-inch gap in between. So that's why we've got a lot of play in that floor, because we've got a wide gap. You think of a normal student's shoe size, you know, anywhere from 8.5 to 14.5. So there's a lot of pressure you're putting in between. And on that, and I'm going to go to the next slide, so keep that in mind. When you look at this, if you can see this small board on the left-hand side, that was a replaced board, so look at, you can tell how small it is, but that's some of the things they did. And what they called it, Mr. Giugelli, I said no waste. What they call it is an ecological friendly floor, is what
We
they call it.
understand your
And they-
term much better.
And they use as many pieces as they can use to make it ecologically friendly.
And we saw pieces that were literally 2 to 3 inches in length.
Right, and this one is pretty, on the left-hand picture, that one's pretty small.
Well, that obviously, wouldn't that fall through? It wouldn't be supported by those braces that you were just talking about.
Right, it's a.
So how did they justify even doing that at all? That doesn't sound like anything
Well,
that's professional in any sense of the word.
Yeah, and that was the system that they spec'd when they built the high school, unfortunately. But the picture on the right, you can see, so there's a finger joint, very close to another finger joint, very close to another finger joint, very close to another finger joint. And the system that we have at Riverside, just to give you the difference in the systems, is the Riverside gym was 41 years old when we replaced it from the flood. This is the system we put in, and it's called a scissor lock floor. So they scissor both the bottom and the top. So the bottom at a 45, or the bottom goes in, then the top goes in at a 45, and then the maple's put on top of that. Much stronger floor, you get much more airflow in this, and then this system also has an
Can you
airflow
tip that a
system
little
in
more?
it.
Can you tip that a little more? So-
You can Sorry?
pass it around.
Or, yeah,
Yeah, you can
that'd be
you can
great.
take a look at it. So
Thank you.
This is the system that is currently at Riverside. The blue will represent the concrete, and then it builds from there.
When was that replaced?
Riverside?
Yep.
When we had the flood in
Yep.
2008?
Okay, and how many repairs have been done since then?
0.
And you have to look at the individuals that use the floor, and I know, do they still do basketball leagues there?
Absolutely.
With
That gym
men,
is used.
So they do, okay, I knew it was used a lot.
Second to the high school, that's the busiest gym we have in our district.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that particular floor, so in 2008, they installed the floor at Riverside. On that floor was, from day one, a 5-year warranty. And then every year that we have them do our recoating in the summertime, they add a year. So right now, we're on year number 9 from Stalker Flooring with a warranty on that floor. So they really stand behind that product. And I will point that if it hadn't been for the flood, we'd probably have sanded that old gym floor again and refinished it. So it just tells you how long. So it was 41 years, that thing would be 51 years old, 51 years old
And that's-
now.
they should last.
They should last.
Decades like that.
Yeah.
Because they're designed really to be resanded and refinished. You know, you take off the finish, you don't go deep on the sanding, but you go enough to make that happen.
So I'm new here, so I just have to ask the question. Now, we've replaced tennis courts, now we've replaced floor of the gym. What else is gonna, I mean, when that high school was put in, what else was substandard? Are there other issues coming forward in some future dates, or
Good
is this,
question.
is
Well,
this
we
all
know the
there
roof
is?
needs to be.
That's a
Well,
good
roof
question.
is
Start on that.
Roof is reasonable though,
Yeah.
10,
But
however
I'm
many
just
years, but
wondering
yeah.
why we're getting the poor results from this floor.
The underlayment.
They did it bad.
Because it was put in.
The underlayment, so it'd be that
I
under.
know, but I mean, why didn't the company know?
They knew, we've been working with them since 2003.
Who
And they-
put it,
Cash
what's the
check
name of the
anyway.
organization that put it in the first time?
Baseman Brothers.
And
So-
But we're paying for the expense.
So you've had good luck with stock.
Very good luck.
Are they the ones that did Riverside?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They're from New London, local company. They started in 1961, Steve's dad. And they've been, I mean, they do a lot of floors
Yeah.
in the state. Couple of the areas, there are other districts that have this same floor, the same age, some of the same problems. One of the districts has already replaced their floor. So it is an issue that they're seeing. I know in my board update memo that I sent, there was a student in a district that was impaled by
saw that.
one of the planks.
14-year.
And it's the same, it's the same system, so we do worry about that too, but we really have bigger issues. And tonight you'll see that, I mean, there's actually, we can show you how the floor is depressing and where there's areas where you can almost stick your foot in.
Now, where's the next time that you would have the opportunity to get this done? Like, over summer, we're hoping to replace this and have it ready for next season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We'd like to get in as soon as, like the day after graduation.
Yeah, okay. Do
For-
we have to bid this out, or is this something we can just have, since we know this company is a good company, can we just hire this company?
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Not to talk even more negative about certain things, but this other company, has there been any litigation, any lawsuits against them? If they're seeing it across the state?
There has not.
Better Business Bureau at least
Yeah.
something.
There has not.
Okay.
So whose fault
Yelp.
is it? Or why is this happening this way?
Something.
Shoddy work?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
The
Did
system
we-
isn't, the system really isn't great.
The what?
The system, the floor system, where the scissor locks, there's more pieces of the boards touch the, that underlayment.
On the crisscross.
Where you don't have that in the other one, you've got a big gap, and that's where you've got that flexibility. And you'll see that when we tour the field house, and I can explain a little bit more about that. So this picture that you're seeing on the screen right now is Riverside. And the reason I wanted to show you a couple little variances that we're probably gonna, we would wanna mirror. It's an 1.5 board versus a 2 1/4 inch board. There's a difference there. And then the other difference, you may look at it and go, well, isn't that weak right here where you have a joint, a board, and a joint? And no, because what they do with their floor is there's no finger joint, so that,
Right.
so the finger joint, you've got it on the bottom, you see the top looks like a solid piece of wood, but you don't, you've got that finger joint in there holding the two together. That actually is a solid piece of wood, and it's called a butt joint, they butt right up against it, so you have the full board that's touching that underlayment. So you don't have those pieces where you have that flexibility in there. Any other questions? that
Well,
can-
I mean, I think we were kind of headed toward this earlier, but, I mean, where we just sold a bill of goods, I know this happened a long time ago and the people that were making decisions then, but I mean, I guess what I've been failing to understand is how something like this could happen. You know, obviously they put in flooring that was bad. Other districts probably did the same thing, but I mean, who would have made, do we know who would have made the decision to go with this? Is it just a low bidder and so we went with it and we didn't know what we were getting?
Probably twofold. One, our architect specified that specific floor. There was one very comparable, but they were not the scissor lock system. They were they call it a Mach 1 system. So it was spec'd. There was no leeway to go with the scissor lock. Our architect spec'd that specific floor.
Well, you
Do
obviously
we know
didn't
why?
have any reason to believe it wouldn't have worked.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
Correct.
did what you thought was
And it was
prudent
new.
Yep.
There was a lot
There
of
wasn't
field
evidence
houses
at
going
the
up at that
time,
time. And I think it was
that
new.
was the one to go with. I
Yeah.
would assume so.
Right.
Well,
So
we
was
got-
it a gamble? We don't know, and if I wish I could get in the heads of why, but I don't
No,
know.
and I realized it was before you were here. I just, we're being asked to spend an awful lot of money on something that should be good for another 25 years, and
At
it wasn't
least, it
good
sounds
for
like
two,
a,
so.
Well,
a
we got two-
lifetime.
we got two lives, one you live with and one you learn with.
Right.
And one of the discussions we had on my tour out there earlier was, we don't know what's under there either, potentially, if there are any other surprises, hopefully not.
Right, and I did put the pricing in there for you, and the low was 311,000. I did put the contingency in there for that reason. We could run into a couple things. One, is the vapor barrier on the concrete good? I'm not worried about structurally. I don't believe, because everywhere else in the school, the floors, they're structural. So I don't have an issue with that. I would be worried maybe that there's something with the vapor barrier, and they'll check that before we put the new floor down.
So the concrete is likely fine, and whatever's on top of the concrete is what
Yes,
causes problems.
and I will tell you, we were able to see some of it when we filled in, because we did fill in, when we first put the field house in, there was a long jump pit, and we were having issues, one with the covers being damaged, and two with sand getting out onto the floor, which is not a good mix. So we were able to see that when we had Stalker take that out, and we were able to see the base, and it looked in good condition there. And with anything, you don't know till you unearth it. The beauty of it is, when I started working with Steve, I just said to him, let me know how much this is gonna be, because I've gotta try to figure out a couple things. One, to come before the board and say, here's what's gonna happen, or to go to the community and say, we're doing a referendum, and we have to replace this. Why are you replacing that? That's a hard conversation to have. And when you see it, you'll understand why now I'm saying.
Well, but you're
I
gonna
think-
get the same questions from the community too, about why wasn't it done well the first
Right.
time?
Right.
which is
Right.
what-
Again,
yeah.
you only knew what you knew then. So,
Right.
Well,
I'm not
Pretty
gonna
expensive mistake.
Well, I
It
know.
is,
but
but
you
I
can't
don't
get
think
back
it
the program
matters to
back
point
something
fingers
you
Sure,
should
the
know.
soil, is it
Oh.
being built over essentially wet soil? I know at the campus, they had a lot of problems with tennis courts just because of the water in the soil, even
Yeah.
though the builders thought it was dry. That whole land over there where the high school is built is sort of wet.
Right. We aren't noticing it anywhere else in the building, so I would have to say that's probably not an issue that I'd be concerned with.
Because if we do go to referendum, what Peggy, these people are saying is true. Why do we have to replace this floor so soon?
Right.
The-
And now it's easy to answer. The system was not,
But then doesn't the person who put in the system have a responsibility to at least help with the cost?
1 year, but I wouldn't ask them back.
No, but 1 year,
we wouldn't ask
when
them.
you see the floor is only guaranteed for 1 year.
Right.
I wouldn't act on a contract like that, because you expect the floor to last.
And that was written into the specifications by the architect, was a 1-year warranty.
And you're just asking for the field house at this point, not, now there's
Correct.
another,
Correct.
aren't the same issues happening with that
On
area
a-
as well?
A very small scale, not at the same rate as we're experiencing in the field house.
So we feel that we can live with that one for a while yet, or do we really need to be looking at replacing both of these?
At some point,
And can we get a buy
Peggy,
one,
yes,
get
at some
one
point
free?
we'll be
Buy one, get
replacing.
one free.
We'll
Buy
be
one, get one
replacing
free,
this,
yeah.
the small gym, yes.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't stand here and say, well, we're not gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to do that. It's just not progressing as fast.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that gym, because it's smaller, I can somehow get into my capital budget so that we're not coming for, we're gonna budget for it as we go along.
I'm just thinking if we're doing
So you're
one,
trying
I
to-
mean, I remember seeing the pictures of the boy who was impaled by the board, and that
Where
was,
that at?
Middleton.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that's frightening, and
Very.
I'm a little concerned about liability too. If we have an issue with one and, if we don't have that with the other at this point, that's fine, but,
And we can look at that too.
I mean, not that I'm all about
No,
spending lots
no,
of
I know.
money, but.
I know.
Well, sometimes though, if you get them to come for one thing, they'll do the other for, you know, because they're already
There,
there, but I
right.
don't know.
And I know the money issue was a concern, and you have suggested this can be split over 2 budget years, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Is one of the options we're exploring. And I even had the discussion that I think in this particular instance, if, and maybe we won't have to, but if we had to consider the fund balance as a source of funding, this might be one of those things where that wouldn't be out of the question. One-time expenditure that
Then
hopefully
try to
lasts us
sock
for
it
50
back away
years.
as soon as we can then, yeah. But-
Yeah, it sounds like you think we're in a position that we could afford to do this.
Yeah, and,
Yes, we do.
yes. And the,
And-
you know, the tennis courts right now look like they're coming in less than the 800,000, so I mean, I think we're in a good position to look at there too. if
And
we
you
had
had, you had discussed also that previously, a few years back, an estimate for this type of floor would have been much higher than what you're looking at today.
Yes, and I can tell you what it was. When I first inquired, it was $450,000. Why is it less today than it was when I asked? They are so familiar with this floor and how to remove it. That's where the cost was. It was labor dollars. It really was.
That's not good either.
It was labor dollars in removal. And part of the things we're trying to do is, it was suggested that we don't do dumpsters, that we have the wood outside for people to take. And I'm okay with that if
Or
they.
sell it, or sell it to
Yeah,
the
people
company,
would-
or,
that would
I
be-
mean,
No
there
one
are.
would, no one would
nice
buy it
wood.
because of how they have to remove it, but a lot of people, in one community, they had an Amish community that was close, so they took all they could get. So,
My husband would take it.
we would look at trying to do it that way versus doing dumpsters. That's the other reason for contingency. If I have to go the dumpster route because we can't, get rid of it that way, then we'll have a little bit of expense additionally for dumpsters, so.
Cause it's good boards.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Susan just said something, would our
Yeah,
woodworking
when
program
he was
help with
out
some of
working
that, or?
What's that?
Could we scarf some of that for our woodworking program on
Yeah.
the way out there, maybe? or-
Construction
They may look
Academy?
at it and see
Yeah.
what they would want,
Yeah.
but the pieces are so small and it's so fragmented that
Okay.
Right.
it might not be the best solution.
Okay.
And we'll
So-
see how it comes out, because if we feel it's unsafe, then we would go the dumpster route. I know a lot of people wanted the gym floor out of Riverside when we did that. However, they had a scissor lock floor there too, 40 years ago. That was a system that was in place. But what they did there is when they set those boards, they set them into tar so that they would stay in
Oh
place.
my gosh.
And it had asbestos in it, so I couldn't offer those boards to the community, where here we could.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know not everyone could make the trip over to the gym tonight, but I'd like us to go over there at this point and view in person what we're seeing here, so you get a real sense of the problems there. And if there could be a motion for us to adjourn here and reconvene out there.
Workshop. Second.
With a motion by Jones and a second by Hayes.
Yeah.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Preister?
Yes.
Hayes, yes. Jones?
Yes.
Net?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Useman?
Yes.
Gisella?
Yes,
And
we'll
it's 7:20.
stand adjourned and